everyone, I'm Mackenzie Fossler. This week for the expert panel, I'm talking about Nelson Mandela. So, a little bit about him. Due to the different years that he had peacemaking prior to his presidency in South Africa, he won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. He was the first African American president of South Africa in 94, and he served for 5 different years. According to the North House text on page 195, authentic leadership focuses on whether leadership is genuine and real. Then again, on page 198, it talks about how authentic leaders focus on their values and behave towards others with those values. Mandela was one who continually was a nonviolent person and focused on those nonviolent behaviors through his presidency and different leadership roles. That was something that he always stuck to, and something that he was always very proud of, was that he could fight peacefully and nonviolently. As a young college student, Mandela began to show just how serious he was about sticking to his morals and sticking his ground. While acting on the Student Representative Council, many students found that they were unsatisfied with many things at the school, so they began to boycott. Mandela aligned with the students by resigning from his position and as a result being expelled. The headmaster said that if he came back to school, that he would have to step back up to that position, which Mandela said no to. I think this is a great example from the beginning, as him being a young student, of just how much he really did care about what he believed in and how much he was serious about what he believed in and standing for what he thought was right. For 20 years, Mandela was in the African National Congress, and he directed peaceful, nonviolent acts of defiance against the South African government and its racist policies. Looking at the 5 different authentic leadership characteristics that are listed on page 198 in the North House text, I definitely think that Mandela encompassed all of those different characteristics at one point or another. He was very passionate for the work that he was doing his whole life. Even while he was in prison, it never deterred him from continually fighting for what he believed in and what he thought was right and valued. He acted in ways that stood behind his values that he was raised with. His relationships with his followers through college and his presidency were always something that he nurtured and had compassion with. If there was ever an issue that his followers had to deal with, he made sure to, first have compassion with those and relate to those best he could, but also talk to them about the best ways that they could go about those in nonviolent ways. Finally, he would own up to the things that he had done wrong and do the time for the crimes that he may have committed. He had consistency when it came to issues that he knew would trouble him. So Mandela was imprisoned different times for different issues that arose, but he always did his time. Even if he didn't find himself to be really guilty of the crime, he always made sure that he stuck to doing the right thing, and if he was accused of it, he did his time. So there's some different questions that I had posed. Do I see Nelson Mandela as continually being an authentic leader? Yes, I do. I think in all, he embodied an authentic leader. He never really strayed away from what he believed in and what he thought. Though in 1956, when Mandela and 150 others were arrested for treason, while he was sitting in prison, he did see the armed struggle might have been the only way to achieve changes. So he thought that maybe if he was arming himself, then maybe he could get a bigger reaction and a bigger change out of people. Though after prison, he then, stuck to his nonviolent ways as much as possible. That was always his values, were to be peaceful even when faced with difficulties, and I think he really did a great job of that his whole life. The second question, what characteristics do I think that Nelson Mandela lacked the most? These are out of the 5 characteristics that are in the North House text. Though I really don't think that he lacked any completely. I think he had a part of him had all of these characteristics. One of them might have been consistency. He was always fighting for the same thing, and he always wanted the same goals out of things, to do things in the most peaceful, nonviolent way possible. But maybe sometimes he could have had a little bit more self-discipline, so he wouldn't have landed himself in these tricky situations that did put him in prison. I do know he was passionate, and he didn't really have a problem with serving those times. It would have been nice, though, if he could have been out doing more good for the community and not be stuck in a prison.